Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's first video. We're going to have a look at weather next 8 to 10 days in today's first video. Later on we'll have a detailed and probably final look at the bank holiday weekend and see what's going on. Very uncertain in terms of bank holiday Monday. It looks like we're going to be threatening to bring in some thundery rain from the east and possibly having a bit of a washout of a bank holiday Monday. But there is quite a bit of uncertainty about this, and not all models are in agreement. So we'll look at that in a second, but the main bank holiday weekend update will be tonight. And this video is going to concentrate on next week's 10 days. Before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through the widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. And thanks so much for doing that. This video ads on most of the pages. They own out content. When you watch them and close back up again, it helps to pay for GasWeathers.com. We're going to have a little preview of the weather, or potential weather, for the Glastonbury Festival. It's going to be a written post this evening, just explaining kind of things we're going to be looking at, and a little bit of a heads up where the CFS V2, but long range model, is perhaps seeing things for the latter stages of June. So if you've got anything invested in the weather for the end of June, around the time of the Glastonbury Festival, that all starts kicking off as we get through into this evening. Main updates for that will be when the GFS starts to pick up on the time frame of the Glastonbury Festival. That'll be in a couple of weeks' time. Right, let's have a quick look at the next weather for the next 8-10 days. Maybe it's going to take us to around the 6th of June. We'll start off with 500 bit of our high anomaly flow charts as we normally do. Got the ECMDF here on the top, the GFS on the bottom. We'll have a look at it in a second. 500 bit miles, 80,000 feet. It's an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure. I'll be moved around by jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. So what we see for the coming week to 10 days, that got a ridge here up to the north and northwest of the country, centred to the north of Scotland, somewhere towards Iceland. Trough of low pressure is to the south, and the flow is generally coming in from the east, rather like that. And of course, at this time of year, it's going to be fairly warm on the continent, so this isn't a cold scenario. Quite warm air being brought in from the continent. If the high pressure was to go a little bit further west, if it was centred around here in the mid-Atlantic and towards Greenland, then that would start to bring colder air in from the north. So northerly winds are still quite chilly at this time of year. Well, any time of year, northerly winds will be the coldest direction. But at this time of year, easterlies actually tend to be quite warm because they start to drag in the air from the continental landmass, and that's warming up rapidly, of course, with the sun being very, very strong now. So generally fairly dry, especially for the north as we get through into next week, and also I think quite warm as well. The GFS is very similar. So again, we've got GFS here on the bottom. High pressure is a little bit more centred towards Greenland, so perhaps slightly cooler air is coming around the top from a more northeasterly type direction with this one. But it's still the basic idea that there's above average height sitting very close to the country, generally centred a little bit to the north of the country, and a fair amount of settled weather through the middle and latter part of next week, I would have thought. And fairly warm temperatures as well, although maybe starting to cool down a little bit. Have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles, and these are for the next 2 weeks. Red line here is the 30-year temperature average. Look at this, we're above average now and likely to stay that way really throughout the ensemble. There's no sign actually there of going below the red line in terms of the trend line. Anyway, the trend line, I don't often speak about it, that's the white line. Just here, you maybe can't work that out all that well, but the white line is the trend of the ensemble. So it takes all 20 or 21 members of the GFS ensemble, puts them all together, and then creates one single line, which is the white line, that is the trend of all of those 20 members, and they are generally looking above average. So it looks like I'm in for quite a warm spell as we're going through into the start of June. Dates on the bottom of the chart, of course, June the 1st being just there. In terms of precipitation, Well, this is the these are the big rainfall spikes that we've got for Bank Holiday Monday. Really quite a lot of heavy rain coming in from the east then. But overall, that isn't too bad an ensemble for rainfall. There's a little bit coming through here and there. But overall, you wouldn't say that's a desperately wet period. It's just that it looks like we're coinciding the worst of the rain in the next 2 weeks, wouldn't you know it, with Bank Holiday Monday. So it's just funny how that works out. But overall, that's probably not too wet, actually, for the next 2 weeks, especially get through into next week. Temperature anomaly for the coming week looks like this. Generally a little bit milder than average. It's suggesting a little bit cooler than average for England, central east parts of England. I think that's probably because Monday could be a very cold day, as well as having torrential rain moving in from the east. Even though your prayer temperatures are quite warm, because the rain intensity, because of the rain intensity, I think we could have quite a cold day on Bank Holiday Monday. But overall, again, this isn't a particularly cold period coming up, and generally favouring a little bit milder than average, I think, for the week from the 26th of May through to 3rd of June. Precipitation anomalies, they show a very clear north-south split, so Scotland, Northern Ireland looks significantly drier than average, close to that blocking area of high pressure to the north, whereas England and Wales looks particularly wetter than average. And again, most of that is falling on Bank Holiday Monday, unfortunately. So here's the generic charts. This is for Bank Holiday Monday, and it's this area of low pressure just here, which at 6 o'clock in the morning is sitting across the Low Countries. There it is, threatening us from the east. As we go through the day, we find that low pressure pushes across the country. So by 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, the low pressure is centred across Wales and South West England. This is one of those scenarios we don't get very often in the winter, but if we did, we would be seeing outbreaks of heavy rain, heavy snow, I should say, coming in from the east. It's one of those that's taking in an area of low pressure from Germany, and in winter it would have cold air associated with it from the easterly winds, of course, and you'd see outbreaks of snow moving in. If you remember the snow event that occurred in 1991 on the 7th and 8th of February 1991, that is a very similar scenario to this, with low pressure within bitterly cold air dragging in copious amounts of snow. I think there's a foot of snow in London, and yeah, if it was winter, we would have that. Of course, it's the end of May, so it's just going to be heavy rain moving in across the country. As we go through into the precipitation charts, we can see just how heavy that rain is looking at 6 o'clock in the morning off the East Anglian coast. Very vibrant colours there, and they push in across the country through the course of Bank Holiday Monday, giving a bit of a washout for particularly England and Wales, and then carrying on north and westwards as we go through into Tuesday. By the time we get through to Wednesday, that low pressure is moving out into the Atlantic, and then high pressure sort of takes over from the north and the northeast. The flow's still pretty warm, actually. The air's coming in from France and the Low Countries, so generally quite warm as we go through into the latter stages next week. High pressure stays in control. This is how we end up on day 10, which is Saturday the 4th of May, and the day 10 chart is Sunday the 5th of May, and still in the same broad scenario, really, which is high pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland and going down towards Scandinavia. Low pressure is in the Atlantic, and yes, we're still dragging up generally quite warm air from the south and the southeast. You could well be seeing temperatures into the low to mid 20s Celsius, I would have thought, with that one by the time we get through into early June. ECWF, again, very similar, a little bit different in that this low pressure is slower coming in. So this is the chart for Bank Holiday Monday, midnight, and the low pressures across Germany. As we go through to midnight Tuesday, that low pressure is still off the East Anglian coast, probably bringing rain by this point in towards the east coast, but actually we will get away with a dry Bank Holiday Monday on this sort of scenario. I can show you the precipitation forecast from the Icelandic website, meteorological website, for the end of the week. So this is midday on Bank Holiday Monday. This British Isles just here, this yellow area just off the chart, you can't really make it out, but this yellow area just off the chart is the rain moving in from the east, and at midday on Monday, Monday, the east area is still keeping that just off the east coast, actually, of England. And it's not until we go through the day, so this is 6 o'clock in the evening, that we begin to bring some rain towards East Anglia, and then we get through into the early hours of Tuesday, and then definitively we're bringing that band of rain in from the east. But it is slower with it, and it just about gives us a dry day on Bank Holiday Monday away from East Anglia. This is midday Tuesday, and you see by then we have got quite a lot of heavy rain across the country. I don't often show you the Icelandic website, but meteorological website, but it is useful this for seeing the precipitation forecast from the ECWF, because we don't tend to get all that much information from the ECM, unfortunately. We get loads of information from the GFS, but the ECWF organisation kind of keeps their data locked away from the general public, the people that are paying for it, really. So if we have a look at the rest of next week with the East anyway, I'll come back to West Central. This is for Wednesday, and again, we've still got low pressure to the southeast, probably still producing rain in the southeast, but otherwise this high pressure to the north is taking over. And then as we get through in second half of next week, increasingly that area of high pressure dominates from the north. The winds are still in from the east, so still bring quite warm air in off the continent, but quite a bit of settled weather as we go through up to day 10, which is Sunday the 5th of June. High pressure still there, centred around Iceland, so still no real change in the overall pattern. A lot of blocking sitting to the north of the country. The main area of low pressure is to the south of it in the Atlantic. The flow is going something a little bit like that. Actually probably quite in central parts of Europe, but for us we're probably close enough to that area of high pressure to be relatively dry, and I would think fairly warm. So that's how it's looking. The charts remain very complicated, really. The main idea is that we've got this blocking feature sitting up to the north. It looks like it's going nowhere fast. If this was winter, we really would be locked in to a prolonged and extended spell of probably quite severely cold weather. It's going nowhere fast, so it's going to be remaining quite difficult and challenging to forecast. I think what we can say fairly confidently is that we're going to have this area of heavy rain moving in from the east sometime around the early part of next week. Could be Monday, could be Tuesday. After that, I would think it turns generally more settled with time through the course of next week. With winds in from the east, temperatures should be quite warm because the continental landmass is fairly warm now. So generally dry and warm as we get through into the start of June. That's the basic idea. But because of how complicated the pattern is, there could be day-to-day variation on that. Right, I have a detailed look at Bank Holiday weekend on the Bank Holiday updates page this evening. Also going to have a little bit of a sneak peek for the Glastonbury period. So come back for all of that this evening. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.